Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. Welcome to my class. Those of you who are new to this channel, a very warm welcome. And I shall be taking international relations from the perspective of the UPSC examination, which is an integral part of both GS Mains Paper Second, the optional political science and international relations, and even your interviews. By the end of this class, what all will be clarified? Let me set a standard for you. First, the creation of Israel, history of it, the Hebrew Bible, of course, that gives us an idea about Israel, who was Israel, and the creation of Israel as a nation, the Balfour Declaration. The importance of India's perspective here is also very great because, of course, you will have to write answers. Who are the current state actors? The Hamas, Hezbollah, the involvement of Iran, Turkey. Why is the USA even interested in Israel? Everything will be discussed. Many have also alleged that Israel has illegally occupied Palestine, and the current intifada, which is being the third intifada, it is being dubbed as the third intifada, is justified. Everything will be discussed. Okay, so without any delay, let's move forward. Do not worry about making notes because that will be provided to my Telegram channel by the name of Pooja Dwivedi UPSC. If you have any queries regarding this examination, do not hesitate, talk to me on my Instagram. So as we go by, first, of course, the biggest question is, what is the legitimacy of Israel? Whatever we know about Israel comes from the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew Bible mentions Israel. Israel, or Jacob, is the grandson of Abraham. Abraham is considered to be the father of both Judaism and also Islam. Judaism spread through his son Isaac, and Islam spread through his son Ishmael. The descendants of Abraham were enslaved for many years. After that, they settled in Canaan, that is the present-day Israel region. Most importantly, Jacob, his name was given by the Hebrew God as Israel. So Israel has been mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. Now we talk about the most important kings, the kings without whom our history is incomplete, King David and King Solomon. King David ruled in this region around 1000 BC. Thereafter, he was succeeded by his son, King Solomon. King Solomon was the one who developed or established the first temple in the sacred city of Jerusalem, and thereafter it was destroyed. So King Solomon is very important from the perspective of history. As you can see, this is the entire region that we are talking about. Here is also the Solomon's throne, and actually there are many holy shrines, holy temples, holy mosques that is getting this complication from all the sides, Muslims, Christians and Jews. So the first temple was established in this region only. Moving on. Now let's talk about 931 BC. In 931 BC, this region of Canaan was divided into North Kingdom and South Kingdom. The North Kingdom was by the name of Kingdom of Israel, and the South was the Kingdom of Judah. The Assyrians in 722 BC, they invaded and completely destroyed the North Kingdom, which was the Kingdom of Israel. Then in 568 BC, the Babylonians came and they conquered Jerusalem, this region. And thereafter we get the entire picture of the rivalry or the enmity that is going on. Other than this, the first temple which was destroyed in 568 BC, it was replaced by the second temple in 516 BC. Let's move ahead and talk about the current situation. The current situation traces itself from 1517, when this entire region was under the occupation of the Ottoman Empire, one of the greatest empires of history. But eventually it collapsed after the World War I. This 400-year-old empire was defeated by a declaration by the name of Balfour Declaration. So, the Zionist movement in the early 19th century was gaining ground, which wanted to establish a Jewish homeland in Palestinian regions, in this region, which was dubbed as Palestine. So what happens? During World War I, Nazi Germany was coming with a heavy hand over Jews. There was sentiment. There was a huge sentiment for Jews. The importance of creation of a Jew homeland got its importance from the First World War. And it was at the peak of the First World War when we saw the immigration of Jews, not only who were living in Israel, but also Israel as in the current region, Israel, but also in European nations, they started moving towards this region. So between 1882 to 1903, 35,000 Jews, they relocated to Palestine. And between 1904 to 1914, another 40,000 also got into that region. Arabs were not happy with it. They protested, they retaliated. And thereafter, Nazi Germany was also coming down with a heavy hand on Jews. So the Balfour Declaration comes into being. The Balfour Declaration, let's talk about it. In 1917, at the peak of the World War I, British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour, he decided to go on with a plan for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. And this was the Balfour Declaration. This was the reason. What was the reason why a creation of Israel was touted? So that it would encourage support for the Allies in the World War I. This included the regions of current-day Israel, Palestine, and even Jordan. This was the partition plan. And many countries supported this plan because the entire sentiment for Jews, the Holocaust, was one of the reasons, of course, that there was a necessity of creating a Jewish homeland. And League of Nations in 1922 said yes to this entire plan. Now, let's come to the current situation. The problem lies in the West Bank. The complex history, as I have already traced the history for you for the West Bank, the presence of shrines for Muslims, Jews, and even Christians, it's another sort of tale. So let's talk about it. See, the Al-Aqsa Mosque is also known as Qibli Mosque. It was created or established in 8th century AD. And it is one of the 3 holiest shrines for Islam after Mecca and Medina. So this region, Al-Aqsa Mosque, there is another very important region for Muslims, that is Dome of the Rock. And here is the Western Wall. Okay. So the Western Wall is sacred to the Jews. The Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of Rock, these are sacred to Muslims. And this is actually situated what the Jews call as Temple Mount. And this was the region as well which had the first temple, which was afterwards destroyed, and then we got the second temple. So this is a very complicated region. The Muslims do not want the Jews to enter this region. The Jews say that this region belongs to us. Of course, the first temple was created years and years before the Al-Aqsa Mosque's creation. And this is the entire situation over here. The importance of this region is a lot from religious perspective. All right. So this is a map section that is going to help you understand it. Now, if we talk about the bird's eye view, as you see, this is Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is the Dome of the Rock. And the entire sanctuary or the entire region is called as, by the Muslims internationally, Al-Haram Al-Sharif, which is the noble sanctuary. Alright, Temple Mount is the same thing as the Al-Haram Al-Sharif noble sanctuary. So do not get confused between it. Now let's move ahead. If we talk about the current situation, the third Intifada. What is Intifada? It is being dubbed as a third Intifada. We have to understand what does this word mean. It is an Arabic word, Intifada. Okay. Intifada, which means to shake off by surprise. So the recent attack by the Hamas from the Gaza Strip, it was actually a surprise attack. Surprise attack means whenever a war has to take place, of course, there is a declaration from both the sides and then the war continues to take place after that. But this Intifada was a surprise attack. Within the first 20 minutes of what is being called as the Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, 5,000 rockets from the Gaza Strip were launched in the territories of Israel, killing thousands. And in retaliation, of course, Israel has also done the same. So what is the first intifada? We have to talk about that as well. The first intifada was against the occupation of Israel in Gaza Strip as well as the West Bank. And this was in the year 1987 that culminated in the Oslo Accords, which happened so that Israel also withdrew from many regions of West Bank. And thereafter, the bringing up of the Hamas. The Hamas was actually born from the first intifada. The Hamas has been touted as a terrorist organization after its ways of terrorizing and killing civilians, raping them, murdering them. So this is a terrorist organization, a militant organization. Although India never openly condoned the Hamas, but recently by the tweet of the Prime Minister, he has clearly stated that we are with Israel because we are very sad about this terrorist attack. So this is being dubbed as the third intifada because of that reason. First intifada, 1987. Second intifada was in 2000 by suicide bombings of the Hamas. And this is the third intifada, claiming thousands of lives both in Israel and the Gaza. Gaza has been destabilized because of the presence of Hamas. If I talk about the West Bank, it is under the occupation, or not the occupation wouldn't be the correct word to use. The West Bank is actually under the rule of Fatah. Fatah has renounced all sorts of violence, but now even West Bank has joined hands and declared a war against Israel. So when we saw that missiles started to get launched against Israel from the Gaza Strip, this Iron Dome shield was activated. This Iron Dome shield has gotten a lot of aid from the USA also. So what does it do? Whenever enemy rockets are fired, the radar system starts intercepting them. The control system estimates what is going to be the impact of the rockets that have been launched. If they are going to fall on inhabited lands, then another missile will be launched from the Iron Dome, and this will explode, nullifying the impact of the enemy missile. If the missiles are going to fall on uninhabited lands, then Iron Dome will not work. Israel, after almost 50 years, has invoked Article 40 to declare war against the Hamas. Why is this important? It was a war. Before even declaring it formally as a war, the Prime Minister said that we are in war. The cabinet met and they invoked the Article 40. What is the importance of it is that it is coming after many years. It was in 1973 when this was actually declared during the Yom Kippur War or the October War of 1973. After just getting on with the 50th anniversary, this dubbed as third intifada, was launched. And whenever a country formally declares wars, what happens? That it can come down with more repression on these particular incidents or on these particular attacks. More countries can come together with Israel now, such as the USA. Now let's talk about the Gaza Strip, from which we saw launching of the missiles. This is under the de facto ruling of the Hamas. It's a small self-governing Palestinian territory under the Israeli occupation, sharing a border with the West Bank and East Jerusalem. During the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, that so happened that these regions were occupied by Israel, and many countries were involved in this. As in this particular war, the Sinai Peninsula was also, occupied, or we can say conquered, by Israel. Even the Golan Heights of Syria. So the 1973 war, that is 1967 war. In 1973 Yom Kippur War, Egypt and Syria both tried to take their territories back. And in both these wars, Israel in 1967 as well as 1973 won. And that iterated more support by the USA for Israel. Okay, so Israel, Egypt and Mediterranean coast have a border with the Gaza Strip. Also, it is just about 365 square kilometers like Lucknow. Moving on, as I have told you that there are certain countries that are actually controlling it. First of all, it is under the occupation of Israel, and it is an airtight region. Airtight region, that means the airspace is continuously vigiled upon by the Israel. The coast is also vigiled upon Israel, and this crossing, Rafah crossing, is one of the crossings that is under the vigilance of Egypt, and there is Eres crossing, which is under the vigilance of Israel. So what happens whenever such kind of attacks take place? First of all, the attack was very, something that could be intercepted. We do not know what kind of situation the intelligence agency of Israel is going with, that it couldn't intercept this attack. Also, this region, whenever it launches attacks on Israel, this region can be blockaded. That means if you blockade certain crossings, sorry for that, if you block certain crossings, then humanitarian aid or any sort of aid cannot reach this area. So this is the point of having crossings over here. We also saw the news that an Egyptian policeman fired randomly on Israeli tourists who went to Egypt. So Egypt is also involved one way or the other. The entire situation of Egypt, of course, Egyptians enslaved the descendants of Abraham, it was also suggested. So this is the entire situation. Now, who is the Hamas? Hamas is basically a militant movement. It is one of the two Palestinian territories. First is West Bank, and then we have Gaza. West Bank is under the ruling of Fatah. Fatah also used to have a lot of say in the Gaza Strip, but later on they were ousted by the Hamas. Iran provides it with material and financial support. And in certain videos that have come up on X, formerly known as Twitter, the Hamas has been seen thanking Iran for the support. Also, Turkey reportedly harbors some of the top leaders of the Hamas. Its rival party, Fatah, dominates the Palestine Liberation Organization and rules in the West Bank that I have already told you. Hamas is actually an acronym for Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, which is an Islamic resistance movement. It was established by Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, who was a Palestinian cleric. He established Hamas as the Brotherhood's political arm in Gaza in December 1987. This is, of course, during the first Intifada, in which the Palestinian uprising was there against Israeli occupation of West Bank, Gaza and East Jerusalem. To counter, of course, this was created, one more thing is very important to understand, it was actually created to counter Palestinian Islamic Jihad. But now Palestinian Islamic Jihad has also joined hands with it. Now, Hezbollah also comes into the picture. Hezbollah is actually a Shiite group. It is backed by Iran. It was created by Iran's Revolutionary Guards, which was in 1982. It gets its recruitment from Lebanese Shiite Muslims, and the origin of it can be traced back to Lebanon's 1975 to 90 civil war, and they are also against Israel. They have also targeted many facilities of Israel in the Sheba farms. So map is also important for your examination. I will try to bring out certain questions for it as well in my map insights. Do watch it at 8 p.m. All right, let's move on. So Hezbollah is also a terrorist group according to USA, Saudi Arabia. European Union has classified Hezbollah's military wing as terrorist, but not the political one. Argentina has blamed Hezbollah and Iran for 1994 bombings of a Jewish community center in Buenos Aires, as well as 1992 attack on the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires that killed 29 people. However, they deny it. Now, the involvement of USA. USA has sent aircraft carrier to the Levant Basin region of Mediterranean Sea. And that is in order to help Israel in case of any anomaly occurs. They have sent aircraft carrier USS Gerald L.R. Ford. So, what is the importance of Israel to the USA? As soon as it was created, President Truman, without any debate, supported the creation of Israel. First of all, European countries were decolonizing. The power was collapsing. So, America was an uprising star back then. It took on power from the European states. And the importance of Middle Eastern countries was from the perspective of oil and energy. More so importantly, the importance of Suez Canal. So in order to safeguard Suez Canal, in order to ensure that its energy basket is diverse and it can get a lot of energy through the Middle East area, it started supporting Israel. Also, there were personal relations that President Truman shared with many Israelis. Moving on. Israel is the largest cumulative recipient of US foreign aid in the post-World War II era. In 2016, a defense agreement was also signed with Israel to provide $38 billion in US military support for the next 10 years. Funding for the Iron Dome missile defense system is under it only. Then comes India. When India knew that Israel is being created, and Palestine is being created maybe on the basis of religion. India was already a wounded person, we can say, a wounded and very disheartened, if we have to take India as an individual. And we already had gone through this entire process of developing Pakistan on the basis of religion. So it was like a two-nation theory only, that people who belong to different religions cannot stay in one nation. Their aspirations, their traditions, their political outlook will be very different. Congress never supported it. So Prime Minister Nehru vowed to Gandhiji that I am not going to support this creation of Israel because it is on the basis of two-nation theory. Okay? And there was a general consensus in the Arab world against it. India did not want to align itself with any other country, with any bloc. So this was our very first taste with creation of another country on the basis of two-nation theory outside of our own experience. Also, the United Nations wasn't in favor of any sort of divergence here. Then we voted against the partition. India voted against the partition plan of Balfour. Then we also voted against Israel's admission to the United Nations. This was our initial stance. We didn't want to be aligned. We didn't want to be seen as siding with one country. We were very against the two-nation theory. This was our first stance. So, as the time went by, what happened that Israel was actually recognized as a country by Turkey and Iran. So, India saw this opportunity. India said, we are also going to say that you are a nation in 1950. In 1953, India allowed Israel to open a consulate in Mumbai. We did not give them a proper consulate in New Delhi. Palestine Liberation Organization under Yasser Arafat was recognized by India as, a representation of the Palestinian aspirations. So India developed its engagement with the largest political grouping, PLO, Al-Fatah. On January 10, 1975, we recognized PLO as the sole and legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, no one else. An independent office was given at New Delhi, and India became the first non-Arab state to recognize the Palestinian Liberation Organization. But a shift occurred. This shift takes us back to certain wars. Our war with India and China, and our war with Pakistan, our war with China and our war with Pakistan. The Arab states, for whom we were very concerned that we are not going to hurt your sentiments by agreeing to Israel being a separate nation. They did not support us during Indo-China war. They did not support us during the Indo-Pakistan war. In fact, they went all out to support Pakistan. This shift was very major. Thereafter, Israel in that period has helped India with arms and ammunition during both the wars, 1962 and 1965 wars. Iraq invaded Kuwait in August 1990. India was against it. PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, was in full support of Saddam Hussein. And thereafter, PLO started losing its authority in the entire world after this happened. Moving on. With this, we established our full diplomatic relations with Israel in January 1992, days after the Chinese established diplomatic relations with Tel Aviv. This is very interesting. Moving on. Now let's talk about the Kargil war. How Israel helped us so much. It's just unbelievable. When even USA was not ready to give us intelligence. So what happens that the Indian Air Force desperately needed precision target bombs because Pakistanis were actually hiding in caves. So we needed bombs. So much so that Israel took this entire opportunity so much so that they dug in their emergency stocks of precision bombs. They gave us and shipped these weapons to us. This was very decisive in shooing away the Pakistanis who were hiding in caves, and because of this they were getting advantage in the Kargil war. after this, the Vajpayee government sent Foreign Minister Jaswant Singh for the first bilateral visit in 2000, and Home Minister L.K. Advani visited Israel in the summer of 2000, which was followed by more high-profile visits. So this is why India started supporting Israel, but also Palestine. Both the nation as in both these region of Palestine, and of course Israel was supported by India. But under the current government, since 2014 we are going to count now, Prime Minister Modi visited Israel in 2017. This was the first prime ministerial visit to Israel. First. And thereafter we started dehyphenating our equation. Dehyphenating means every time we talk about Israel, we have to talk about Palestine. Every time we go to Israel, we have to go to Palestine as well. But he skipped the customary stop at Palestine. But this was all done strategically. During 2014 to 2017, India made sure that the Prime Minister visited Saudi Arabia, Iran, Qatar and the UAE. We also hosted Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in May 2017. We later on visited Palestine in February 2018, but we did not visit Israel. This is how we started disengaging ourselves. We saw that we have to deal with Palestine independently and Israel independently, because visiting Israel and Palestine together was customary. This was something that was followed since ages like a tradition. But we broke it under the current Prime Minister, because the situation is very complicated, not only for India in Israel, but also for Arab nations, for India in Arab nations. We have security, defense and connectivity with Israel. Recently, we have also become a part of I2U2. I2U2. India, Israel, UAE, USA. As we saw that tensions are now simmering down between Arab nations and Israel, which was of course an outcome of the Abraham Accords, why should India fall behind? Also, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, Iran. With these many rival nations of Israel, we have had good relations and we still have good relations. There are 90 lakh strong Indian community in the region, and connectivity is important when we talk about West Asia, Middle East as they call it from the American perspective. From Indian perspective, it is West Asia. And even Israel is very important to give us ground in the Mediterranean Sea. Crucially, more than 50% of India's energy imports are sourced from West Asia. Right now, we see that through this tweet, the Prime Minister has made it sure that we stand strong with Israel. Also, we have had many instances where Israel has helped India a lot, so we cannot turn our backs to Israel right now. But yes, we will always support a bilateral dialogue between Palestine and Israel. We have been changing our stance and evolving our stance with the need of the hour. And this is what has to reflect in your paper as well, the paper that you are going to write possibly. And if you are going to become an IFS officer, it is important to understand it from a holistic perspective. All right. So I hope this has helped. Make sure you subscribe to my Telegram channel to get all the sorts of PDFs that I use here. Thank you.